So this is one where a lot of our standard strategies fall apart. Now, the key standard strategies that we use is change things to sine and cos. Oh, that's done already. Another key strategy that we use was, let's get a single fraction on both sides. Oh, that's done already. And now we're stuck. So one thing that we can do in this one, and there's two strategies on our strategy list that deal with this. The one strategy is called build the other side. And the build the other side strategy says, well, if I want a sine theta on the bottom of the fraction, as I see on the left, why don't I put a sine theta on the bottom of my fraction on the right? But the only way I can do that is if I multiply the top and bottom by sine theta. And if I want a 1 plus cos theta on the bottom of my fraction, because it's on the right-hand side, why don't I get a 1 plus cos theta on the bottom on the left-hand side? So can you see that I'm building the other side? And what do I get now? Well, on this side, and I'm not going to multiply it out even because it's already the same, right? My two denominators are already the same. So now technically I only have to worry about the numerators. And when I multiply sine times sine, I'm going to get sine squared. And when I multiply here, 1 plus cos times 1 minus cos, that's a difference of squares. If you multiply it out, you're going to get 1 minus cos squared, which is equal to sine squared. Good. And we're done. Perfect. So that strategy I call build the other side. That's why it was written at the bottom of our list of strategies, because I call that build the other side. If you're stuck, if you've done your basic strategies and you've changed things to sine and cos and you got them both to be a single fraction, then you could use build the other side. Now, some places call this strategy, or sometimes you'll see this strategy called multiply by the conjugate. Now, that was listed in our strategies as well. I'm going to show you what that means. So if we use this strategy, multiply by the conjugate. Now, build the other side uses words that you know and you've used in regular everyday life. Okay? Multiply by the conjugate uses words that uses one word that you don't hardly ever use. Conjugate. Do you know what a conjugate is in math? It's like the same binomial with the sign different. So if I erase this side like that, on this side I have multiply by the conjugate. Okay? And this works whenever you have a question like this one, where if you look at this, you know you're not allowed to work from one side to the other. But if you cross multiply here, do you see that you'll get 1 minus cos squared and sine squared, and it should work out? So if you do a quick look at a proof and you realize, hey, if I cross multiply and it's the same thing, I could use this multiply by the conjugate. And once you multiply by the conjugate, as we did here, and you only have to do it on one side, because we're not building the other side strategy, then what you have to do at the next step is recognize, oh, once I have this, the top is sine squared. And what can I do with my sine squared on the top and my sine on the bottom? One of them is going to cancel out. And we get sine theta over 1 plus cos theta, which is exactly the other side. So that's what the conjugate strategy in our list of strategies was. Okay? So anytime you get a proof where if you look cross multiply, because it could happen with sine squared plus cos squared equals 1, it could happen with tan squared and secant squared, or cotangent and cosecant squared. The build the other side or the conjugate works. But you're going to find that you're going to remember the build the other side strategy more than you're going to remember multiply by the conjugate, just because the words are easier. So it's like getting your denominators the same, right? And then you can figure out from there. Okay, try B. Here's B. Here is an example of a proof. Can you see that? Do I need to make it bigger? There we go. Start there, make it bigger. Yes, the line, this sometimes happens when you split things up, the line gets a little crazy, but that's okay. What's really good here is they got the common denominator. They got a common denominator here, they added the tops, and they got 2 over 1 minus cos squared. They realized 1 minus cos squared was sine squared. At this moment, they said, hey, I can change cosecant on the other side to over sine squared. And then our left side is equal to our right side. Okay, so you've got the rest of your handout that you can work on. If you're wanting to know which questions out of your textbook that you can do now, we can do 3, 5, 6II, 7II, 9II, and 12A.